So you want to learn how to play Heihachi? Don't worry, I got you. In this video, I'm going to give you the beginner tools that you need to learn the most fundamentalist baseline Heihachi that you can know. This isn't going to cover everything, and especially since the character isn't even officially out, I don't think, at the moment of recording this video. Actually, correction, it has just gone live today officially. There's still a lot of nuances that we don't really understand, and the character isn't solved by any means. However, like I said, the baseline that I will be providing is a fantastic fundamentalist baseline that will give you the tools that you need to learn the rest of this character absolutely easy. For a general overview of the character himself, Heihachi is an aggressive rushdown character with great mids and amazing pressure, but he lacks low pressure against higher skilled opponents that know how to duck and call out specific reads. In this video, I'm going to cover neutral tools, how you should be playing neutral and your win condition as Heihachi, the most important combo, and it is only one, but I'll get to why it's only one in a bit, the most notable moves in both his Fujin Stance and his Raijin Stance. Again, not covering all of them because stances isn't actually as important as you'd think with Heihachi. And finally, understanding Warrior's Instinct, what it does, and how we can gain stacks of it. With all of that aside, let's go ahead and get into the first one and talk about how you play neutral with Heihachi. With Heihachi, he plays very similar to how he did in Tekken 7, where he's a pretty aggressive, poke-heavy character. There's a couple of differences between Tekken 7 and Tekken 8 Heihachi. One of the biggest ones that is a minor downfall to both Heihachi and any sort of Mishima mindset that you might be in, 1-1 is -5 with him, so this is not something that you're going to be able to 1-1 spam and poke with as often, but again, it's mainly just a muscle memory thing, as he still has amazing tools that replace these. One of those moves is down forward 1. Down forward 1 is -5, so it is worse than it is in Tekken 7, but the extensions are, oh boy, a lot better. He has just regular down forward 1-1, which he had originally, which is a mid-high extension that's -2, but again, it can be ducked. But for a fantastic mid extension, he has down forward 1-2. Now, down forward 1-2 has 3 different properties that I want to talk about quickly. It has one where you don't charge it at all, which is -13 on block. One where you charge it all the way, which is +1 on block and just sends them flying. And then one that gives you a frame perfect input that is -9. It's also worth noting as well that there's technically 2 variations of this frame perfect one. There's one that's a certain set of frames where it hits and it's just a blue spark, and then you have what people have been calling the golden blue spark, which is pretty much frame perfect. The only differences between these two is just damage. I think it's about 9-10 damage. I'm not 100% on the specifics, but it is definitely enough to where if you plan on playing the character, I highly recommend learning it. Next up for neutral, we have another great charge move that has the exact same properties as before with down forward 1-2's extension, where you can charge them with back 2. As we saw just there, that again, it was a golden blue spark. The frame data doesn't change between a golden blue spark and a regular blue spark. If I can hit it there, frame data stays exactly the same. It's just a damage thing. Not charging it gives you +2, and charging it all the way gives you +5. So this is definitely a move that you don't want to charge all the way, and you either want to just get it out quickly or blue spark it, because it is better if you blue spark it. It's a slower move and is mainly used as kind of like a long range way to approach or to stop them from approaching you. There's nothing crazy on counter hit, it just gives you, again, a little bit more damage and knocks them back that way. If it's not counter hit, again, it's like I said, it's the exact same thing. Next up, we have probably one of his best moves right now in the game, back 4. Back 4 is a 19 frame -9 on block mid counter hit launcher that can give you crazy damage when you launch. In correction, it's not actually -9, it's -8 at the worst and -7 if you tipper it. Can I get it here? There you go. And as you can see, the chip damage is pretty crazy. Another really interesting thing to note about this move is it does track to the left, so very strong for Heihachi. However, it does not track to the right at all. And as you can see, and I'll back up here so you can see it again, one of the things that is kind of you got to be careful about with back 4 is if you do whiff it, there is a very unique whiff animation that is very long and can be punished very heavily. So, especially if you're trying to go for that tipper, be very, very, very careful about how you're tippering it, because you don't want to just accidentally go out of range and miss completely. Next up, we have forward 4, another amazing move that has always been good in Heihachi's kit and becomes oh so greater now in Tekken 8. Forward 4 is +4 on block, and is +7 on hit, leaving the opponent in crouching stance as well, so you can continue your pressure without them pressing. Something that's really interesting to note, though, is with forward 4, if you hold down, you can go into Fujin Stance. I'll talk a little bit more about Fujin Stance here later, because there's a couple of more properties that I want to mention about forward 4, and a couple more moves that we want to cover in the neutral section before we cover there. If you do want to see more about the Fujin Stance now, go ahead and skip down in the timestamp below. I have everything timestamped on the bar, and you should be able to find it pretty easily where the stances are. For everybody else though, I want to show you a really unique property with forward 4. Notice how the animation is different between these two. Crouch, standing. You can see how he puts his hand down like that, and we want to pay attention to that because the frame data is actually quite different. It's plus 15 on crouch and plus 7 on standing. Plus 15 on crouch means you get a guaranteed quite a bit of different things. One really easy one that you can get without Fujin Stance is forward 4 into quarter circle forward 2. This is great because it gives you a stack of Warrior's Instinct because you instigated your heat, and you already popped your heat, so you're already at an advantage as well. I know I said I'll talk about Fujin Stance here later, but one thing that you can do after the forward 4 if you go into stance is Fujin Stance 2 is guaranteed if you hit them crouching, which, as you can see, launches them for a tailspin launcher combo. Going into lows, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We got down back 2 here. Down back 2 was also in Tekken 7 as well. It was great. It high crushes, it is slow, and it is minus 18 on block, so it is super dangerous if they do see it. A great choice for a quicker low, though, if you don't want to risk down back 2 and you just want to kind of poke them. Down back 3 is only minus 13, so it's a little bit safer and can only be launched by Eddie and Kazuya, so at least you won't be getting launched by most characters, and comes out at 16 frames, which is, I'm pretty sure, the quickest low outside of just generic down 4s that Heihachi has. He does have full crouch down forward 4, which is minus 17. I won't talk too much about that one, but it is a full crouch low. It is there and is the same frames, but it is, again, more negative, so I don't feel there's a need for me to talk about it. But again, whatever your guys' game plan and your play style is, lab out the character and really figure out what you feel. I've said it already again, but I will say it again. This is more of just a fundamental baseline to kind of start you with and get you on the right track. If there are other moves that I didn't name here that you think are just as good and you really like them, let me know down below in the comment section, and we can have a little discussion about what we think is the best move for Heihachi right now. One more thing that is important to mention about down back 3 is it is minus 2 on hit, and it has pretty much no range. This is not a move that you want to be starting the round with, because if they backdash at all or do a move that's quicker than 16 frames, you're pretty much screwed, and it is minus 2. So again, this is only a move that you really want to be using if you need a quick move to just annoy your opponent to get them to stop turtling and do something. Next up, and for the final move that we have in neutral, we have probably one of Heihachi's best moves in his move list, and something that you absolutely should not be sleeping on. Back 1+2, which is also a heat engager. It's only minus 11 on block, so very rarely are you going to see people punishing it at lower ranks, and even people struggling at higher ranks, especially with the character being new. One of the best things about this move is the fact that it's a parry, and it parries a lot. I could sit here and show you everything that it could parry, but you can just take my word and know that anything from 9 frames to 22 frames, you can parry. After 22 frames, it starts to get a little bit hectic, and after 20 in general, it starts to get risky on using it on the first place, but do know that we have tested it, we being me and a couple of friends, and what we were able to find at the time being is a safe range is 9 frames to 22 frames will parry it. Now, obviously, one of the big counter to the moves is if they're stepping at all, you're pretty much screwed. So don't be using this move against people who are stepping a lot, but use it as a call out for pressing, and especially use this against aggressive opponents. This will shut down so many aggressive opponents. So definitely don't sleep on that one. That's going to go ahead and cover it though for neutral, so let's go ahead and get into that one combo that I was telling you about before. I'll have the notations on screen right now while I'm talking, and I'll go ahead and show it to you. Do note that this combo is definitely hard. This is not by any means an easy combo. However, it is just about, from what I have been able to tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, this seems to be the most efficient triple electric combo that is consistent and easy to hit. Consistently, that is. If you already know how to triple electric, this combo will be a little easier. If you don't know how to do triple electric yet, that's totally fine, because double electric works just fine, and you can do everything no problem if you don't miss the ending combo. Which gets into my next point. The ender is a little difficult, because you do have to micro dash and sidestep a little bit, and then do up forward 3+4 into a buffered quarter circle forward 2. So it's a lot that you do have to do, but I highly suggest you learn it. A great secondary ender while you're still trying to learn up forward 3+4, or if you don't even want to do that. Sidestep 2 into holding forward allows you to go into Raijin Stance. From there, you can just press 1 and you can get a great ender launcher. This gets you familiar with the idea of sidestepping at the end of the combo in the first place, so if you ever do want a little more damage at the end, you'll have a great fundamental base to start learning the buffer sidesteps and the timing to be able to hit this. Moving right along, we're going to go ahead and talk about Raijin Stance and Fujin Stance. I'm only going to give 3 of the moves from both, as realistically, you're not going to be using his stance often in neutral, because so many of his other buttons are just better. You definitely can still use it in neutral, and there are times you want to, but if you are going to be using it, it's most likely going to be the options I'm showing to you. And the rest of the options we already use in the combo, at least for Fujin Stance. So with this entire video collected, you should have a good understanding of all of the moves in Fujin Stance and really what you should be using in Raijin Stance. Again, if you want to have a better understanding of the character, I already advise you to go and lab it in the first place, so being in the lab won't hurt anyways. And consider it motivation to get in the lab, because I definitely know I need to. Before we get into the moves with Fujin Stance, I want to quickly show you something that's really interesting. Similar to Reina, Fujin Stance is also a parry. Because of this, you can pressure opponents who are pressing when they shouldn't be, and just like Reina, you can get people on moves that should be punishable, but they're not in heat. With that out of the way though, let's go ahead and get into the actual moves of Fujin Stance. Fujin 1+2 is going to be a very long-reaching, sidestep tracking mid that's -13. Use this if your opponent is stepping either side quite a bit, is far away, or is mashing a bunch. And obviously don't use it if they're not, because it is -13. Fujin Stance 4 is going to be the only low that he has from this stance, and is going to be -14, so you gotta be careful about getting launched with this, but it's the only low option he has, so if you want to go for a low, this is the one that you want to choose. Finally, to wrap it all up, the best move probably in Fujin Stance 1+2 is going to be Fujin Stance 1+3. It's a headbutt grab that does +7, and just like most stance grabs, is unbreakable, so it has to be ducked. The really interesting thing about this move is in heat, you can hold down to transition into Raijin Stance. And oh boy is that good, so we might as well go ahead and start talking about Raijin Stance since we've already covered the first 3 on Fujin. One of those common moves that you're going to be using out of Raijin Stance is going to be Raijin Stance 2, a natural high launcher that gives very, very, very damaging combos. And on block is a guard break that guarantees 1-1-2. If the opponent is ducking, the safest option that you have afterwards is Raijin 3. It's -7 on block and is very steppable to both sides, but it is safe on block and does give you a little bit of chip damage. If you want something a little quicker, you can use Raijin 1, but it is -11. It's not that bad, and some people might struggle to punish it, but that's more or less your mid options. The only low that you have from Raijin Stance is going to be Raijin 4, which just instantly goes into his Hell Sweep. It's Heihachi's regular Hell Sweep, so you have all the regular options from normal Hell Sweep, and outside of that, it's just more or less just a regular Hell Sweep. I've already mentioned a couple more than 3, so I'll go ahead and mention one more because it is pretty important. Heihachi does have a grab from this stance as well at 1+3. The interesting thing about this grab as well is it technically does give a little extra damage when it hits the wall, but it doesn't wall splat, and you do have to have your side to the wall for that to be able to get any of the extra damage. That really covers Raijin Stance. I think that actually covers every move in Raijin Stance. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and wrap this tutorial up and get into Warrior's Instinct. Warrior's Instinct is pretty much Heihachi's install that all the DLC's characters have been getting, and you gain stacks simply just by entering heat, whether you pop the heat or you get it through a move. Because of this, you can only get it once every single round, meaning it takes 3 rounds to be able to get a full stack. Once you do use it, though, however, it is active the entire round and that round only. You can't get it for the rest of the game, and if you die with it, you lose it. If you win with it, you still lose it. There's not really a wrong way to use this move, but if you have it at the very beginning of a round as soon as it starts, it's pretty much just good to use it as soon as possible. You can enter the stance by doing 1+4, and it gives you +2 on block if they're close by. Inside of Warrior's Instinct, we get a lot of buffs, and before I start talking about those buffs, I want to clarify and say that there is no limit to using these moves, and this power does not go away until the round ends. You can use any of these powered up moves as much as you want, and you will still gain the Warrior's Instinct stacks and buffs to them until the round ends. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about what gets buffed and how much it gets buffed. Starting with 1-1-2. 1-1-2 gets a lot more damage, as you can see, and knocks them pretty far away. 4-4-3 becomes +1 on block instead of -3, which is fantastic. One of the craziest, I think, is going to be 1+2. The frame data still stays at -10, but you get a guaranteed forward 2 off of it. The damage is pretty insane between these two, with 58 damage. So being 12 frames and only -10, anytime you catch this with it, it's just a free 58 damage flat. And I haven't even talked about the best part flat with Heihachi. Any of the moves that you do with Heihachi, being combos, strings, anything, does complete true health. Meaning, there is no gray health whatsoever when you're playing him. I dropped the combo, but you don't get gray health. Strings, combos, anything. It is all true health. You get to send their ass back to the Stone Age, and they get to play Tekken 7 while you get recoverable health. The final move that I want to talk about as well that does get buffed, that is a little bit important, is down forward 2+1. The frame data stays the same at -7. The frame data stays the same on Warrior's Instinct or not at -17. However, it goes from this to a full tornado tailspin combo that you can get off of, which is really great because it's 13 frames, so his 13 frame Punisher pretty much just becomes a Twin Pistons. But with that move, that pretty much wraps up the beginner's guide to mastering Heihachi. I know I've said it a handful of times, but I do want to clarify, because I've had a couple of people get a little kind of upset that I wasn't covering certain moves, but especially with this character being brand new, and it being more of a beginner's guide on just giving you the important tools of the character, and then you going to lab it and figure out what works best for you, I can't really cover everything, and there might even be things that we don't even know about yet that's insane, and we won't know until the next week or two when people start really labbing this character and figuring out what he has to his potential. Overall, he seems like a really strong character, and has so far been genuinely one of the most fun Mishimas I've played. Let me know what you guys think about Heihachi. Are you guys afraid to be playing against him in Ranked? Or are you super excited that he's back? Let me know down below in the comments. I'm curious to hear you guys' opinions. But with that one, guys, I'm going to wrap this up quickly. For those of you who have stuck around and checked out my community post, I did get hit by a car, so I'm hurting a little bit and struggling a little bit to make this, but I wanted to get this guide out for you guys because I'm super excited for this character, and I want you guys to be able to enjoy this character, and wanted to kind of spread the knowledge to everybody so you guys can kind of have a similar game plan to what I've been addressing when I play my ranked games. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys found something useful in this tutorial. Again, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate the support, and I'll see you guys in the Heihachi gameplay next week. Bye.